when it comes to a first-person shooter such as Call of Duty, one very important aspect is obviously the guns in the game. Now, quite often, pretty much every Call of Duty, it has its iconic weapons in terms of being good, or quite often OP. There's quite often a correlation there. ACR, Intervention UMP from Modern Warfare 2, for example, Galil, FAMAS from Black Ops, just to, there are a few examples. Every Call of Duty game has them. World War 2, for me, it's the MP40, because it's iconic because of World at War as well. It was already iconic in the eyes of Call of Duty players, and it was a bloody good gun as well in this game. So, however, every Call of Duty game, or pretty much every Call of Duty game, also has some questionable choices in the gun categories, and that's also, again, no different to World War 2. Now, in this video I've selected six guns that I feel like could be classed as the worst guns in World War 2. And now this isn't just as simple as oh, it's shit, it's hard to use, it's different, it's not very accurate. It's not just as simple as the gun is shit. It's also, is the gun OP beyond repair? Is it infuriating as well? So this isn't just guns that are worst as in quality in terms of and how good they are, as in worst as in how they ruin the game. For me, obviously, this is my opinion. I imagine we all have differing opinions on it. If you do disagree with me, leave a comment. Leave a comment on what is the worst gun in World War 2. Which out of, do you like some of the guns that I'm going to mention? If you do, why? What makes them, not a heap of trash like I suggest? So yeah, this basically, we're going to go through 6 guns. We're going to discuss why I think they're shit, why I think they just belong in hell for eternity. And yeah, we're going to start now with this little shit of a weapon, the Waffa 28, the WAF 28. I don't fucking know. Anyway, that's the first one. The SMG. Yep, I hate this thing. It's quite relevant to me at the moment because I'm trying to get diamond camos on my SMGs, and up until this point, I've been quite fortunate in the sense that most of the SMGs are usable for me. I can use them relatively well, and it's until that we get to this little bastard of a weapon that we start struggling. I really can't stand it, and I don't believe I'm the only person that believes that, simply because I never see it used at all. I really rarely ever see anyone using it. Now, there's multiple things I hate about this gun. First of all, the obvious recoil. It's a bit shit. It sprays all over the place. If you remember the Scorpion Evo on Black Ops 2, that gun, no point in holding down the L2 or LT or whatever button you used to aim, because just aiming was not an option. But at least with that gun, as much as you couldn't control the thing, it had damage. While this is a weakling, in terms of what I notice anyway. Even when you're relatively accurate and you get most of the bullets at the actual person, it still doesn't seem to always kill the bastards, and that's obviously an issue, for one thing, in a game where you're meant to kill people. And ultimately, it's just a horrid little thing to use for me, and I just don't. I can't see how I'm gonna. I've only got one. I've been using it a few games now, and I've only got one headshot so far. I've got to get 100 of them. I just don't understand how I'm going to do it. My accuracy is awful at best, generally anyway. But yeah, this is the first one. This is a gun I genuinely just despise at this moment in time. Yeah, we're going on to the next one, which is probably the most commonly used weapon, and is probably the one people might have an issue with the most. It just infuriates me, and that is the combat shotgun. The combat fucking shotgun. I can't tell you how much I despise this hideous piece of shit that people constantly use, and it's not just specifically the bloody shotgun. It's the expeditionary bullshit incendiary shells that consistently ruin games for me. Now, like I say, this is definitely the most commonly used weapon out of all of the ones I've chosen. Pretty much every game you'll get some knobhead with it. And my reasoning behind it being here, like I say, in terms of quality, the gun's fine. It's OP if anything. Occasionally it seems like a mini bloody sniper, and with those bloody fire bullets, literally even if you get killed, you tend to get the kill anyway. You die and trade for a kill, thanks to them, thanks to those fire incendiary shells. So in terms of quality, it's fine, which is part of the problem. If anything, I just hate it. I hate it more than the Brecci. If you remember Black Ops 3 and the Brecci, up until it got patched, it was a terrible little thing. It was basically you sprayed death upon everyone with that. For me, this is far worse. I just hate it. Now, like I said, the main thing I hate about it is literally if you're in a fight with someone, you see that's there, literally just there. This time, I'm obviously doing it. I needed the gameplay for it, where you shoot the guy with the shotgun, but because they've got a bullet out beforehand with the fire ticking, they get the kill anyway, even though ultimately they were too far away to get a kill with a shotgun, and ultimately they died. They still managed to get the kill thanks to that bloody fire. Now, it just honestly, I can't tell you how much I hate this gun. Even on its own, it's pretty decent in terms of being overpowered. It can be quite a good gun even without the incendiary shells. It's just the way people use them. I guess it might not even be the gun itself, I don't know, but it does feel a bit too OP, and I can't bear to think if they keep something like this in future Call of Duty games, because I'll just lose it. This is probably the main source of rage or anger from this game for me. It's people with these shotguns, especially when they're consistently getting me. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. If you are one of the many people that use them, just try and live life a little bit, man. It's no fun. It's not even that entertaining. It really isn't. I remember I first used it a couple of months ago, and I was like, okay, this must be at least fun to use, because ultimately it can trigger people, and people are using it. I used it, and it's just not that entertaining. I'm using it here again, not that entertaining. Why you use something else? Have some imagination with you. Anyway, moving on. Go on to snipers now, and the carabin. It's this fucking thing. Again, I mentioned it while talking about the Wuffer shotgun, SMG. I'm not the most accurate in the first place. When you got to hit 2 sniper shots at somebody, it can be a real pain in the ass. This is particularly embarrassing. Watching this back, I should have got rid of this. I thought I had a grenade. I realised I had a it was a bad time. Literally only just unlocked the fucking mine and all. I don't understand how I made that mistake. Anyway, onto the gun. It's just, there's always a sniper you just don't see used, and now I think about it, maybe oh god, watching this back is awful. Maybe looking back at it, maybe it's not a bad gun. It's just literally that sniper that gets overlooked. There always feels like there's some. If I think back to you had the Dragunov, you had the WA2000, I think it was, in Modern Warfare 2. These snipers just weren't looked at. Obviously, the intervention and Barrett were already there. In terms of World War 2, you've got the Lee Enfield and you've got the Car 98K, which both are pretty decent. You've got the other sniper as well, which is kind of just as irrelevant. But when you've got the Lee Enfield and you've got the Car 98K, you've just got no reason to really want to use the carabin. And again, similarly, I'm going for diamond camos, so I'm now in the point where I've got gold on the others, so I have to use the carabin. Eventually, while using it on this game, I did realise just aim for the head. But getting one-shot kills can be quite a challenge. with it. It's fairly weak in that regard, obviously, as you'd expect from a semi-automatic. And again, you just don't see people using it at all. I have tried to consider that. People just don't use it that often. If you do, they tend to be ACOG scopes and things like that, where it might be a little less tedious. But in terms of actual proper sniping, you just don't see these used, do you? You really don't. It's all about, like I say, Lee Enfield Car 98K, and the Carabin just sort of sits there unloved. And I, for one, even on a personally, like I say, accuracy level's not great, as you can see. So for me, it's just not a gun I ever really want to use. I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as possible in terms of camos. I can't beg to think how long it's going to take me to get bloodthirsties with this, because I'm such a incompetent tool when it comes to patience and realising that I might have to have 2 bullets. That's the Carabin. We're now on to what? Well, this is going to be 4 and 5 technically, because they're kind of similar guns. So I don't know if I combine the 2 or not, but we now move on to 4 and 5. Now these are together because they're very similar guns. The SVT-40 and the M1A1 carbine. Obviously, if you're knowledgeable in the game, you'll know that these are semi-auto and essentially one shot at a time, basically, if you're not particularly aware of that. You can put the M1 Garand in here as well, however I didn't, simply because it's iconic and that little ding is to die for, so I'm not putting it in because it's iconic, but you could probably put that in the same bracket. I just can't use these guns very well, as I've already mentioned. I'm not the most accurate, and you have to have a degree of accuracy with these guns. You can't really get away with just spraying it everywhere. So for my personal playstyle, it's just not a gun I'm going to choose to use. Second of all, when I was thinking about what guns really to include in this, I did try to think about the playstyle that you have to adopt for each gun. For the Ww2, it's still running gun, spray and pray, and just like any other SMG, it's just the fact it's shitter. For the Carabin, you play similarly to any other sniper for the most part. But for these guns, and actually the other gun that I'm going to mention as well, the last gun, it's just not possible to do spray and pray, basically, which is basically the way I play. That's my chosen way of having fun in this game. I like to get an SMG, sometimes an assault rifle, and just run about, sometimes with a sniper as well. And you just can't do that with these guns. You really have to play a different way, unless you're particularly skilled, then maybe you can get away with it. But for me, someone I believe I'm sort of above average, just above average, it's just very difficult to find this fun. I mean, what you're seeing here, we've now gone to the M1A1 carbine, and this is actually quite a decent little streak I get on. I think I get 7 or so. I don't actually remember how many, but I don't die for quite a while, is what I'm getting at. So you'd think, okay, I'm doing well with this, maybe this is entertaining, but I generally didn't find it that fun. I just sort of sat around the house. I kept sitting here and waiting. I didn't feel like I could run about more without dying, and I wanted the gameplay to be as good as it can be. Whilst I'm using guns that I've considered crap, I wanted to try my best, if that makes sense. So I wasn't going to just spray around running about spraying. And that's something I do think is important to consider when it comes to guns, that especially for your personal opinion, if it's not suited to the way you play, why use it? And ultimately, for these sort of guns, that's the reason why I just don't use them. And to be honest, yet again, similarly with the other guns that I've already discussed, apart from the shotgun, obviously, they're not that used. They're really not that used. People don't tend to use these guns. If you're going to play like this, you're probably going to use a sniper. So that immediately kills that off. And if you, like I say, if you are going to run around, you would much rather use an SMG or another assault rifle that's fully automatic. So these guns, again, they just get put in the bin, and again, whether they are the worst guns or not, it's probably harsh to say they are, because if you play a certain way or if you like a certain style, then they're probably relatively decent. But ultimately, for me, they're never used. I never use them. I don't really see other people using them. They're boring to use. Ultimately, if they weren't in the game, would I give a shit? No, I'd probably be quite happy with that, to be honest. That pretty much wraps up what I have to say on them. We're now going on to our final gun, the sixth gun, the last gun that I believe should be considered for the accolade of worst gun on Call of Duty World War 2. This is going to be the Bren. Originally it was going to be 5 guns. It was going to be the 5 guns you saw, and I was just going to give a special mention to LMGs as a whole. But then I remembered the way the Bren works, and I thought, you know what, the Bren deserves its own place. That being said, I think LMGs generally, in every Call of Duty game pretty much, I've always despised them in a multiplayer sense. I've only ever really had any appreciation for them in zombie games. Ultimately, again, you just don't see them being used, and when you do, when it's like you come across them, you come across people using them. Are they ever really in a position where they're not hiding, but head glitching or hiding behind a barrel or a wall, sitting there with their diamond LMGs, thinking they're all impressive, when they're not? That's pretty much always the type of play you get when it comes to LMGs. I picked this Bren specifically because, one, it looks ridiculous. As much as that might sound petty or pointless to bring up, it just looks stupidly funny. It looks like the funny twin out of them all, ultimately. And then it's the way it works. The low recoil is just so tedious, and again that restricts you from doing any sort of running about. I try to be adventurous while playing this, but ultimately I do stick to the same positions to get kills. I do stick to sort of keeping hidden. Anytime I push up here, I'm thinking I'm probably going to die very quickly, and there you go, I do. Simply can't shoot quick enough. So yeah, it takes forever to kill anyone, and you got to play like an absolute piss fart. Again, similarly, even actually worse than with the semi-automatic assault rifles, because it's so slow. It's slower than that, if anything. Obviously, you got to lean into aim, and it's not fun. I'd really struggle to understand how people who use LMGs, have fun, because, like I say, most of the time they're very slow, and if you like to play the game that way, I suppose that's fine by me, I guess. Well, it's not, it's fine by you, but you should play the way that you want to play and play the way you have fun. I just don't understand how you have fun, and the Bren particularly jumps out at me as if to say, yep, this is awful. So this definitely, for me, deserves to be involved in this, because frankly it's an abomination, both in looks, both in the way it's used, and what it is. Everything about it I hate. So after all that, what is the worst gun in Call of Duty World War 2? Now, I'm going to work myself backwards. The Bren is quite shit in many ways, but to be fair to it, I haven't used it enough to say it can be the worst gun in the game. That one game was enough to make me feel like it deserved to be in here, but not enough to make me sure that it's definitely the worst gun in the game. The semi-autos, they're in here because, again, this is my personal opinion, and I didn't want it just to be as simple as, oh, this gun's shit, it's the worst. I wanted it to consider all factors, and that includes includes like playstyle, and it includes how I can use it, whether I can use it, because ultimately it's my opinion. So they were included simply for that. They're probably not the worst guns. They're definitely not the worst guns. For some people, they are the best guns to use for the way they want to play. Just because I don't understand why they want to play like that doesn't make it wrong. And ultimately, they are quite strong guns. So in terms of in terms of ability. Yes, is ability the word? Factually, I'll go with factually. They're not the weakest guns in the game. They're quite good for what they do. A combat shotgun, as much as it pains me to say it, probably can't be classed as the worst gun because people use it all the time, and it's a very, very good shotgun. It's barely a shotgun, but it's very, very good. I can't be the only one that absolutely despises it for what it is. I really can't. I don't see many people moaning about it, but someone out there, please, let me know. Are you out there? Comment your disgust for that bloody thing. Which leaves the Ww2 submachine gun, which is for me definitely the worst gun in World War II. For one thing, compared to other SMGs, it's awful. It's generally just disgusting compared to. It's definitely the brain dead one of the family. In terms of SMGs, because all the rest of them perfectly fine and usable. This one shockingly shite. And yeah, it's tedious. Getting headshots for this thing's going to be tedious as hell. So yeah, that's my take on worst gun in World War II. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Comments. Leave your answers as to why you disagree, agree, whatever. If you don't think it's the Waffle, what do you think it is? Do you want to defend any of the guns I've ridiculed, or are you some of the people who play the way that I said is shit? Oh, well, I judged quite clearly. Again, comments. If you like World War II stuff, get your words out, Connor. If you like World War II stuff, not just like this, where discussion-based videos, or I was about to say discussional. Is that a word? Discussion-based videos. That's what I mean. On live commentaries and all that sort of good shit. Then stick around, subscribe. Mean a lot. I'd say like if you enjoy, comment your thoughts. Thanks for watching and goodbye.